open session.
Second?
Roll call vote.
Carla.
Aye.
Joe.
Hi, I'm here.
Lizzie.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Renee. Nasima. David.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. We're now in open session for the Woodland Community Consolidated School Board meeting for April 23rd, 2020. The time is 7:03 p.m. Roll call.
Carla.
Here.
Joe.
Here.
Lizzie.
Here?
Jennifer.
Here.
Renee. Nasima. David.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay. All please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America. Under God. With liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up is approval of the agenda, the meeting agenda for tonight for open session. We do have a couple of amendments to the agenda. One is the approval, we're adding approval of a resignation for an employee, FY 20-14, to the item, sorry. Let me get there.
Under C.
It's under C, under consent agenda, approval of resignations. There's a list of resignations currently there, and we're adding one more, staff member FY 20-14. We're removing under consent agenda H, which was approval of dismissal of employee FY 2014. Additionally, I would like to request that we table under action items, which is 12C. We table that. It's approval of ethylene oxide resolution. I'm asking that we table that in order to give us time to research it a little bit more. I know we started this resolution working on it from a policy perspective, policy committee's perspective, right when COVID-19 was striking in terms of closing down the school and social distancing and so on and so forth. So I, for one, have not had a chance to do any further reading or research on this ethylene oxide resolution. So I would like to, beg your indulgence to table this action item C to a future board member meeting to give us a chance to read through the resolution a little bit more and do some research on it and the implications of the resolution. Anyone else?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Joe. Any other amendments to the agenda? Discussion? Joe, did you want to add anything else?
No, I think that I was just seconding your motion to amend the agenda. That's all.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, well, hearing no further amendments, can I get a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
I move to accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote?
I'm sorry, can you tell me who seconded?
Joe.
Joe.
Okay. So Joe.
Yes.
Lizzie.
Yes?
Jennifer.
Yes.
Renee. Nasima. David? David? Carla?
Sorry, yes.
And Carla.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, great. So next up, following the approval of the agenda, thank you all for that. We have Superintendent Showcase. I'll turn it over to Dr. Casey.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Little. Tonight, I wanted to give the board an update on our district efforts as it comes to Corona and everything that's been going on in the district. As you know, you've been receiving updates constantly through our communications manager and myself, but I've said it before, and I think it bears repeating again and again. I'm extremely proud of what's happening at Woodland during this health crisis. Our teachers have turned around their classroom learning into remote learning virtually overnight. I've personally spoken to many of our staff, and they said they're working harder than they've ever worked before, and they'll continue to do so because of how much they miss their students and how much they love their passion. When the governor announced on Friday that our physical school buildings were going to be closed for the rest of the year, there were many tears among our staff. Tears because they love what they do and they miss their students. Our school buildings are closed, but our learning and life in the W is continuing. We have remote learning going on daily. We're sending out videos to students. We're doing video announcements. We have restorative circles going on, spirit days, and we're trying to be available to help and support families and students in any way that we can. In your packets, you have a copy of the remote learning plan that was required by the state and that I've approved. We have our grab-and-go meals, which have been going on every day. We've served over 20,000 grab-and-go breakfast and lunch meals to families. We distribute those Monday through Friday, 11 to 1 at the middle school. We have a food drive that's been happening, and thanks to the generosity of our Woodland community, we have raised over $13,000 and distributed over 500 food packs to families. We distribute those on Fridays from 11 to 1. And for families that can't pick up those food packs due to having COVID-19 perhaps in their own household or the lack of transportation, our transportation department delivers to them. One of the main things we've always been thinking about through this crisis is the social emotional support that our children and our families need and the well-being of our students. Last week we instituted a phone number for our families to call so they or their children can speak to one of our social workers or psychologists if they're in need of support in this area. Our social workers have also been creating lessons for teachers to use in their classrooms, as well as continuing their role as part of their children's IEP teams. In regard to communication, since this health crisis has begun and we've closed our physical buildings, we've sent out 21 district messages to all parents, and individual schools have sent out many more. We've done 2 robocalls when we've announced school closure dates, and all of this has been done in English and in Spanish. Our website is updated constantly. We have a mystery reader of the day, and I'd like to thank Renee and Liz, who have been 2 of our mystery readers of the day, as well as our administration, our school resource officer, firemen. Students are now doing it. Our social media communication is constant and it's ongoing. Technology, as you can imagine, is a large task to undertake, and I'd like to thank our technology department. We've distributed over 4,000 devices to students who did not have one at home. We also have a system in place for repairs for families to drop off and get a new one to continue their learning. So what now? We know families have many questions about what happens next. The leadership team and teachers have been working to get those answers for you about picking up your items at school, what's happening with summer school, what about pictures, 8th grade promotion, etc. And we're going to be answering those questions for you as quickly as we can. If a family has a specific question, we ask that they contact their principal. In closing, I'm just asking our families to please continue to communicate with us, email us, call us, reach out to us, and let us know how we can continue to assist them during this time. Please check their emails daily for up-to-date information about the year-end activities that are coming up. We've always said that our parents are partners in our children's education. I remember saying that 30 years ago when I started being a teacher, how important that is, and there's never been a time in history that there's been more true. This pandemic has impacted every family differently, and it's caused stress and it's caused anxiety for many. I want to reassure the board that our amazing teachers, our amazing bus drivers, amazing secretaries, amazing paraprofessionals, health assistants, nurses, hall monitors, everybody involved at Woodland, we're here to support our families and our students as a Woodland community, and we will come out of this and we will come out together. And that's my update.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions, board members? Are we keeping track of the number of students that show up for learning?
Sure, so that's a good question. What we're doing is teachers are communicating with all of their students. For those students that they cannot communicate with, that they're reaching out to, they're letting their administrators know, and then they're following up. We've done home visits for students that are not responding, but for some families, they've chosen not to respond. For other families, we have been trying other methods to do that. So it depends on every family, but yes, we've been reaching out to every child to make sure. We've made phone calls, like, for example, all of our homeless students, we call them at least once a week to see what they need, see how they're doing. But we keep track of, to make sure that all students are some way connected.
Okay. Other questions, board members?
No questions, it's a comment. I wanted to publicly commend the administration and leadership team throughout this pandemic for all their tireless efforts to make this work for our staff, our students, parents, and community.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, thank you. I think I heard someone on the phone about to speak. Okay, well then, hearing,
Well, yeah, sorry. Just trying to unmute my phone. I was listening to, I agree with the and how hard the administration's been working and trying to, deal with the many needs of our students and make sure that our students continue to learn. I really appreciate all the hard work that you've done. Thank you so much.
any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll move forward then to the next agenda item, citizen statements. Do we have any in the
Yes, we do.
queue?
Yes, we
Okay.
do. First one is from a citizen and parent of the district, Stephanie Powers. Hello, I have an 8th grader and a 5th grader. My email is of main concern for my 8th grader. Adolescence is the time when young people start to piece together who they are, or at least who they'll be right now. Many of the pieces that once defined them are lost to the virus. All this change is overwhelming for all of us, and the autonomy and independence that teens crave is next to impossible to achieve when most places beside their own homes are off limits. My 8th grader is struggling not only with all these emotions, but also with the learning curve of e-learning. 5 more weeks of e-learning is overwhelming us at this point. My question is, has there been a consideration for an abbreviated school year? Sincerely, Stephanie Powers. The second one is from citizen Krista Wyman. Good evening. We wanted to take time to personally thank our children's teachers, Maestra Werner, Mrs. Block, Mrs. Bryady, and Maestra Ontiveros, for providing a robust and engaging remote learning experience. Every day, our first grade son's teachers post instructional videos on Flipgrid and have the students report back, share their work, and are able to still see their classmates. They reply back to the students and to parents, sharing meaningful feedback and encouragement. Our daughter's 2nd grade teachers similarly post comprehensive instructional videos and meaningful work on Seesaw. Their feedback is positive, specific, and encouraging. Their plans are easy to follow and implement at home while still allowing for learning to move forward. We count ourselves lucky to have had our children in their classes from the beginning, and we're especially grateful during these unprecedented times. With esteemed gratitude, Krista and Jerry Wyman. And that's all the statements we have at this time.
Oh, thank you. Okay, then we'll move forward. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda with those amendments that we talked about earlier? We had an addition to C, approval of resignations, and removal of H, which was approval of dismissal of an employee.
I move to approve the consent agenda with listed amendments.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote?
Lizzie,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Renee, Nasima, David,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next up, we have action items. Action item A, approval of notice to remedy employee FY 20-15. The information, the background information and rationale is in your board packet. Can I get a motion to approve the notice of remedy of employee FY 20-15 effective April 23rd, 2020?
I move to approve the notice of remedy of employee FY 2015 effective April 23rd, 2020.
Second? I'll second. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, can I get a roll call vote?
Jennifer,
Yes.
Renee, Nassima, David,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next, action item is approval of the appointment of district treasurer and treasurer's bond. This is an annual duty of the Board of Education. The background information is also in your board packet, and there's two motions. I'll start with the first one. I move to approve a 3-year agreement through 2022 to 2023 for Alan Mongen to serve in the district treasurer position with an annual cost increase of 1.6%.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote.
Renee, Nassima, David,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Did we hear Renee?
She's not on that.
She's not on.
Oh, okay. Okay. The next motion, do you want to take that, Lizzie?
Yeah. The second
I-
motion, I move to direct the associate superintendent to secure a bond in the name of the district treasurer in the amount of $14,500,000.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote.
Nassima, David,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Renee. Motion carries 5-0.
And then the action item C has been tabled by the board, so we'll move forward with reports and discussion items. The first written report we have in our packet is the written report on an update on equity.
And Dr. Thomas, are you on the phone, Dr. Thomas?
He will be shortly if he's
Okay.
not right now.
So Dr. Thomas will be on the phone shortly to answer any questions the board may have regarding his written report.
I am here.
Okay.
Okay, did you want to just do a brief overview as people kind of read through the report a little bit?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Just hold up, sorry, 1 second. I had it here. There we go. Thanks so much. We have been doing quite a bit of equity work. We've had to put a little bit of a hiatus or a small stop in some of our work because of the cancellation of in-person instruction. But let me just review some of the things that have been going on this year and some of the things that maybe you might have heard on the surface, but maybe not as much detail within the report. So we started out in July with our agreement with the Midwest and Plains Equity Assistance Center, and by far I think this is the most pivotal thing that we entered in as a district. It established a clear partnership between us and the center. One of the first things that came with that was a technical assistance specialist, Dr. Cynthia Merchek, who has been to the district and visited to one of our ECAP meetings, which I'll talk about in a moment. And so that allows us to have really a person to really problem solve with, to talk about what some of the things that we're going through, help challenge us as far as some of our thinking, and really help us to kind of really stay ahead of where we're going and some of the things that we might not have thought of as being a roadblock or a potential off-ramp that we might be taking. So that's been extremely valuable. The second area was that myself as well as Mrs. Elizabeth Pezzi have been attending these leadership trainings called Leadership Training of Equity Focus Initiative. And these are 4 sessions we go to. We've been to 3. Unfortunately, they had to reschedule the last one, which was supposed to be this month for a different date. But it really gives us a much deeper understanding of what an equity leader is and what are things that an equity leader does. And I think there's 2 distinctions I put in there. A focused equity leader is facilitative. They evoke questions. They're educating others on the inequities in the system. They're organizing and unifying people together towards a common mission. And they're mobilizing people to do that strategic work. Unfocused equity work is about, we talk all the time about some people or a district might perceive, hey, we've got an equity person, so we are taking care of equity, where the person is the strategy. That's not very focused. Or it might be the equity leader is supposed to just go and fight out fires, take care of angry community members or a particular staff member displeased. That would be an unfocused use. Or where the last one is an equity leader is just supposed to be in attendance at key meetings to say that equity is present in the room. Those are ways that are not, they call constraining ways an equity leader should not be focusing. So those distinctions really helped Elizabeth and I as we were going through and thinking about the leadership that we've been working with equity. The third area is the equity-oriented strategic planning training, which we call SEPA. And this big shift is really looking at a shift instead of often what we look at is saying these particular students just don't have a particular skill for whatever the case may be, and that's why they're not successful or not rising to a level of a certain program or something like that. And really this shifts the lens to what do Woodland systems, or how are Woodland systems preventing students from achieving like other students or other groups of students? So that's a complete shift. The shift goes from being on the student to really being on the system. And through that analysis, what we looked at a lot of data. There were 7 of us, and I've listed all the individuals that are part of that. And we found 3 areas that we were concerned about that we needed to do further really action planning with. One of those is the underrepresentation of students who are Black, Hispanic, and multiracial in advanced and challenge programming. The second one we talked about was the recruitment efforts. Well, we've improved our recruitment with staff of color. Too often, our staff of color leave the district within 2 years. And the third item is the disproportional over-identification of students who are Hispanic for learning disabilities and students who are Black for emotionally disturbed eligibilities. So these 3 areas, we're looking at not so much why these students or why this particular staff member is leaving, but what in our systems can we do to prevent some of these inequities that are happening. The fourth area of partnership is this ECAP, which is really kind of like a status check. Where are we at? A metric, a way of measuring our district's progress in equity. We started that process in January 27th, 28th. So Dr. Merchek as well as Dr. Sina Skelton come out and really trained 2 groups of people. A data collection team over these 2 days. They were trained on how to collect data in our system. And then data review team, which includes community members. There's about 20 of us in that data review team. And they were helping us. We were just going through what are the different steps in the process and how are we going to get this information, what are we going to do with this. So over the next 2 months after that January date, we had started the process of starting to collect data. A good portion of the data we were going to collect was going to occur in March, and unfortunately when we had to end in-person instruction, we did talk with our technical specialist, Dr. Merchek, and we agreed at that point it was best for us to stop the ECAP process and wait until really instruction returns to a normal environment for us to continue. So that's the 4 big pieces with the center. There's some other pieces that the center does more passively, and then there's some of the resources they offer, and that's that next paragraph. I've got some links there. Hopefully those are active for you in your board book account. And you can see some of the different things that we've done. We've looked at some of the book resources for our libraries very extensively, looked at making sure our students see themselves in our libraries. Very specifically, there was just the last group of books that I had just ordered. We order a sample copy of every book, and we have our librarians look through that and see which ones we would be adding into our collections. And the last one was on immigrants and how immigrants shape the books and pieces that are in our library. So there's some great resources there. I encourage you to take a look at those and just kind of see some of the pieces there. And then, one thing that we've just started to implement this year, which is our newest ELA series, which is My View and Mi Vision. And that has started to, again, be far more diverse, far more representative of our population. Then I have kind of a list of, I don't want to call them random. They all are in some ways overly strategic, but not in themselves were necessarily strategic. But a variety of different pieces that we have been working on these past several months to really, again, deepen our work with equity and deepen some of the connectedness between our staff and our community. And so when we get down to it, where are we at right now? And while we've had to stop our ECAP data collection process and our leadership training has stopped, there are some things that we're going to continue to move forward. One of the pieces I did not discuss until now was just the development of an equity and inclusion team at our middle school level. We're going to be starting with our middle school level to build basically a staff-based team that can focus really specifically on the needs of the middle school staff, students, community members, and really develop what are the things that we can do to increase the diversity that's represented within our system, within our school, represent the equity, making sure that there's inclusiveness within our school, things like, having more events that are inclusive, things about looking at some of our curriculum work that's going on within our school, looking at different programming as well as student services support. Those are the things that we really have best served at a school level. And so that's kind of the next transition as we move less from a district level kind of work that we've been doing a lot of to more at a school level. We've continued our equitable hiring practices led by, Mrs. Gutierrez. Ms. Gutierrez, our human resources director, as well as our SEPA work. While we've just taken a little bit of a hiatus, now we will continue back to our SEPA work, that strategic work of shifting our thought processes from being a student-centered piece to how is the system preventing students from succeeding. So that's a summary of our work through these 9 months, and hopefully you'll get back in full force when we return with full instruction, but we are going to continue some things even while we're in this remote learning environment.
Thanks, Steve. Board questions? Okay. Anything?
No, I just want to thank Steve on behalf of the district and the rest of us. His work and leadership in this area is outstanding, and his passion for that really exemplifies in everything that we do. So I just want to thank you, Steve. You're, we will continue to do this, and it's part of what we all believe in. So I just want to thank you for your hard work in this area.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very important.
Yeah, I want to thank Steve, also Dr. Thomas. Also, one of my favorite conversations that I've gotten to have as a board member is about his personal. It was with Dr. Thomas about his personal commitment to equity, and how deeply he cares about it, and the way that you have just discussed it as more than just an issue to be a fire to be put out, but to build systems around. I think it's really impressive and can serve as a model for districts in the area. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So we'll move forward then on written reports of summer projects. That's also in your board packet, as well as an additional handout that kind of lays out the FY21 capital projects. Do you want to provide us an overview? Or?
Sure. I'll let Chris begin. I can let Chris do it, but we can also let you know that for the board members that are on the phone, we have Mr. Geisy and Mr. Selzer in the audience. If there's any questions for them regarding the report, they can certainly come up to one of the microphones and answer those questions if you have any questions for them. But Chris, if you want to give just a brief overview.
Sure. Every year in April, we'd like to update the board and make sure that they're aware of all of the projects that are going on during the summer. And this is Don's Department in Operation and Facilities, and then also Dan does quite a bit of work in technology as well. Back in 2017, we did go ahead and borrow quite a bit of money because we needed some capital projects. We needed to repair some things and replace some things. So we try to keep you aware of what we're working on and kind of give you a small time frame of when we hope to accomplish other projects in the future as well, and where we're at in the monies that we borrowed and how much we've spent so far. So if you take a look under the reports, you can see everything that we're going to be working on this summer, and it's broken down by building, both with operations and facilities and with technology. If you have any specific questions about any of the items, please let us know.
Questions, board members? Okay, thank you. Next up, then, we will we also have a written report on the Arbor contract renewal. Did you want to also lead that discussion?
No, Chris.
So the National School Lunch Program bid, it's a 5-year bid with 1-year annual renewals. We are currently in our 3rd year. Next year would be our 4th year, and obviously we'd have to go out to bid after that. Each year, we have to get approval for the 1-year renewal. Renewal is based off of the food away from home consumer price index amount, which is 3.1% this year. That's in the bid package. That's what Arbor is requesting, 3.1%. With 3.1%, this does not mean that we'll actually have to increase our food prices. We're going to keep our lunches the same at $3 a piece. We raised them last year up to $3, and we're going to keep our breakfast amount the same. We've actually had an increase in the amount of students that are eating the food, which is good. We get reimbursements from the government for everybody who eats our food. So they kind of offset each other, and the keeping prices the same and stable will not impact us at all this year.
Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Board questions? Okay. So we'll see that on as an action item.
Action item in April.
April.
Or May, I should say. We are in April.
Yes. Okay. Then next up on the agenda are board improvements and operations. Looks like we need to come up with some new dates for the IASB Starting Right board meeting. There are several proposed dates in our packet, board packet. I'll start off the discussion. I think that we probably should not consider any dates before August, and August may be pushing it. But I would, just to be on the safe side, I would recommend that we take the furthest date out, August 22nd, and hopefully be able to utilize that date when the time comes. I'm not sure that I have the confidence that we will at this point, but I know we have to continue planning. Board members, your thoughts?
I concur.
I agree.
So do I.
I agree.
Me too.
Okay, great. So we'll go to Saturday, August 22nd as a proposed new date to reschedule. The next up in the board packet is the discussion of the IASB Delegate Assembly resolutions. Also included in your packet were the 3 resolutions that we presented to IASB this past year at the Delegate Assembly. Are we looking to amend those resolutions, or possibly just ask that IASB delegates reaffirm?
Reaffirm. If the board wanted to make any changes, this was the time we wanted to have your input on those so that we can know that as we move forward.
Reaffirm.
Yeah, I would agree, just at this point, unless something.
They're due in June. They're due June 24th.
Yeah, so we can look at it again in May, but I would say at this point to reaffirm.
They'll be
Go
brought
ahead.
forward in May at the May board meeting
For an action item.
for an action item.
Oh, okay.
To be approved.
So if you guys look those 3 resolutions over again, make sure that we all agree, because it'll come up for a vote at the May board meeting, to vote to submit those resolutions.
Yes.
Submit the resolutions to IASB for consideration. Any questions, comments, discussion on the 3 IASB Delegate Assembly resolutions?
Nothing from me.
Is that Renee?
Nope, I'm good.
Nothing.
Is that Jennifer or Renee?
Renee, are you
I'm
on the
good.
line? Renee, are you on the line?
I'm on.
Okay. Okay, then we'll move forward then. Discussion of current communications with the Board of Education. Is there any discussion on that?
So I was asking, I changed the format a little bit of weekly communications since COVID-19 began, and I didn't know if the board, if that was sufficient, what we were sending every Friday, if there was any changes you would like. We've been giving you information from the schools, from each department, but I didn't know if you wanted to go back to the previous format, or if there's anything else that you wanted to see. We wanted to make sure that we were giving that to you. So tomorrow we have one that's almost ready to go, but in the future, just tell us, what you'd like us to see in those communications, and we're happy to add it.
Yeah, I would like to see more information on, more data on the students partaking in the remote learning, the e-learning, especially from that equity lens, just making sure and I know, like you were saying, we have a strategy for students who don't, if they're not participating, then, teachers and administrators have been reaching out, but I think it would just be helpful to know how many are actually partaking of that, and then, so I'd like to see that, maybe a weekly, in the weekly report, by grade level, and like I said, maybe demographics, and because I think at some point when this is over, we may have to, as a whole, figure out how, when I say a whole, I mean the state, the nation, we're going to have to figure out what to do with those kids that will potentially be left behind. So it'd be nice to kind of track that data now so that we can understand it better.
And I will say, just to be clear on my earlier point, there are definitely students who are not participating, or either whether it's by choice, whether it's by we have a lot of families classes that have full participation. We have some where we don't have full, where we haven't heard from, students aren't coming on. So we will certainly do our best to get from each teacher who's coming on every day and what we're getting, because I agree, everything I'm reading too is about the how will this even widen the equity concerns that we have when it comes to the achievement gap. So that's something we can certainly gather for you.
Okay.
The other piece that I was talking to someone about was, I believe might have been talking to Joe about this, and that was, at some point we need to survey our parents because we don't know what's going to happen in the fall, and how is this working for everybody. And if there's something we could be doing differently or doing better, we want to know that. So we will certainly be trying to gather some more of that data to try and make sure that we can do a better job. But right now sometimes we're assuming things, and we need to get some more data on that. So I completely agree with you.
Okay.
But in terms of just the communication in general, the format, those types of things, I didn't know if that's what you wanted, or if it was meeting your needs or not. That's why I asked. So
I like the format. I think especially on Fridays, when I get to sit down at the end of the week and I'm looking at everything, it's just, all the bullets are hit for me.
Okay.
Anyone else on the phone? Comments? Okay, sounds like we're good.
Okay, great.
Next we have status. Any FOIAs?
We do have a couple FOIAs.
Okay. And I guess before we go to FOIAs, we have the reply to Mr. Knight. Have you guys had a chance I know the last meeting that I attended, I pushed the email that I had received from Mr. Knight, and then it looks like the draft response has been updated
Yes.
to reflect that. Have you guys had a chance to look at that? Do you have any questions, comments, edits to the response to Mr. Knight?
Nope, I'm good.
Me too.
I'm good, sis.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, then that's good. Now moving forward to the FOIA request.
We've had 2 FOIA requests that we responded to. The first one was from Ivan Kronchik from Smart Procure, requesting purchase order numbers, purchase date, line item details, line item quantity, line item price, vendor ID number, name, address, contact person, and their email address. This is a quarterly FOIA that we receive. It was March 15th when it was received by our office. Our second FOIA is from Mr. Todd Tokars on March 6th, requesting personal cell phone logs from 2 of our employees, the full name of 4 of our employees, personal electronic device policy of the district, video recordings of a bus route over an extended period of time, personal text messages from 2 of our employees, and phone logs from the transportation center. We responded to him with all of the ones that we are allowable by law.
Okay. Questions or comments about that?
No, not for me.
Okay. And I'm assuming we didn't provide any personal cell records, okay. I was just reading through that.
Are you able to share why he wants this? Do you know, or is that allowable to share?
I mean, I think that would be, you'd have to ask him that question.
Do we know who this person is and his affiliation with our district?
Yes.
Student, well, a parent of a student.
Oh,
We've been working with our attorneys through this entire process also.
okay. Yeah, it seems pretty invasive. Okay. Any further questions, comments on the FOIA request? Then we'll move forward then. I'm sorry, someone on the call was speaking? Okay. Moving forward then with announcements and board committee reports. Any announcements regarding committee reports? Okay, well, hearing none. That brings us to citizen statements. Do we have any additional citizen statements?
One more, from Jamie Sotelo. Hi, my name is Mr. Sotelo. When are you guys sending the packets for the students, and how can we send back the library books?
Okay. And there's, I guess there's a way to get in touch with them when they,
We can look up, if it's a parent in
Okay.
the district, we'll look up who it is and have that principal contact them.
okay. And no further citizen statements at this point? Okay, well, and there is no need to go back into closed session. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second,
Second.
roll call vote?
David,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
and Nasima. Motion carries 6-0.
Meeting is adjourned. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody.